All right. There we go. All right, good evening. I'd like to call this December 7th, 2020 special session, public hearing of the Board of School Trustees for the proposed project. Begin time at 6:03 this evening. If we could rise, we're going to ask Mr. Angel to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. So item 2 on our agenda this evening is our Board of School Trustees Commendation Awards. It's kind of a neat situation this evening, so something we're hopefully going to begin a new tradition here in Crown Point. Let's go through 2.01's the 2020 Corporation Christmas Card Design. We have Luca Jordanov, a 5th grader at Solon Robinson Elementary, winning design of the front of the card. We'll get to a little bit of an explanation of what's going on once we present the commendation. We have Maggie Lukowski, the 5th grader at Solon Robinson Elementary, as a runner-up for the design on the back of the card. And our finalists were Broden Morrissey, 5th grader, Allison Haas, a 5th grader, and Ella Trapp, 3rd grader at Jerry Ross Elementary. Do you have a motion to approve the commendation awards as presented?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Angel and second by Mr. Babjack. Any questions or comments before we present the award? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. So like I said, this is a, pull down the speaker. This is a really neat situation that Dr. Terrell had brought to us, I believe, right? I think give you credit for this. And at the last board meeting, us board members and cabinet, everybody had gone through a process of dwindling down several Christmas card cover ideas that were presented from the elementary schools. And it's difficult to pick a winner, but we all kind of labeled number 1, number 2, number 3, and I think afterwards there was all the votes were accumulated, and we came up with a winner that go on the front of the card, and then the runner-up to be on the back of the card. So let me walk forward and present this award to you guys, and we're going to ask, how about Miss Merrill? You want it? We have the when we get to the finalists, we're asking you to say a word about how the process worked at your school, okay? We'll wait till we get to the finalists. So our runner-ups, not our runner-ups, but our finalists, I'm sorry, were Broden Morrissey. Broden, you want to come forward? We'll stay distance, okay? You can come over here and we're going to get a couple of our finalists up here. Ella Trapp. Is it Allison Haas? I'm not sure if Allison is here.
I'm not sure she's here.
Okay, we'll sit down. Let's go ahead and let's bring everybody up, all right? We also have our runner-up was Maggie Lukowski. And our winner was Luca Jordanov. Luca, how about you stand in front of the podium and face the audience for now, okay? Or you can look towards me.
Make sure they get their parents in here.
Oh, yeah. Do we have room to space out? We definitely want to get the parents in here.
Allison.
Oh, Allison, come on forward. Allison, how about you stand just up in front of our We're trying to stay spaced out, but we also want to keep you guys in here in front of your parents.
We've got some room right up here in the front too, parents.
Right, we're going to clear some.
Hey, do you want to have the winner, and hold their poster so we can?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Here we go. Here's your poster, right? And so I'm going to read you guys. I'm going to read you guys your commendation. I'm going to address it to all of you at the same time. The resolution of commendation, the Crown Point Board of School Trustees is honored to commend these fine students for meritorious achievement. Be it hereby resolved that the Board of School Trustees for the Crown Point Community School Corporation wishes to express sincere congratulations to all the students we've mentioned for being named finalists, runners-up, and the winners of our Christmas card design. The Board of School Trustees publicly recognizes this achievement and renders it permanently to its minutes to be preserved for public posterity dated the 7th day of December 2020. Congratulations to all of you. For our runners-up and our winners, we have a stack of cards for you guys to take home with you, and hopefully you could use them yourselves for this holiday. Or we're going to present that to Maggie. Since you have your hands full, thank you. And Maggie's certificate. Thank you. Then how about somebody for Luca? All right. And as everyone can see, the image that Luca is holding up is on the front of the card, and Maggie's will be on the back. And this is, like we said, we came to the meeting last month, and all of your designs were presented, and it's a really neat idea. You guys did a great job trying to put something together, and we hope this is a tradition that could go on for many years.
David, want to give them their certificates?
I'm sorry. Thank you, Scott. Yep, Allison. Allison, here's your certificate. And then Rhoda. And Ella. Ms. Merrill, would you like to add to how the process went? Just give us a little bit of feedback on how the process went.
First of all, I'm going to miss my 5th grade kids right here. They're my 5th graders. Lynn Chapel is here. Mrs. Chapel is the art teacher here at Solon, and Luca kind of explained how she went about this. I know, Luca, you are in the art club. You're not in the art club? Maybe you're in the, okay, you put one, maybe in the art club. And Luca isn't, but you want to kind of explain what you went through with this?
I made it mandatory for my art club to do, and then just kind of put it out there for my students to do. They wanted to do it, participate, but I told this one he would. I walked right up to him with the paper and said, "You're going to participate whether you like it or not." He did. He turned it back in, and I submitted it with the ones that I had. So he's always been that way. Since he was a little baby, he's just since kindergarten.
Well,
And
Very, very talented, both are very, very
Yeah.
talented artists. So,
Very.
in fact, all 5 of them are very, very talented artists. So, you guys represent Crown Point Schools very, very well, and you all.
yeah, thank you. And that card will be going out to, do we have any idea how many copies we had printed?
We actually made,
Some of them probably went out in today's mail.
and we had 250?
Yes.
So the card, as they mentioned, has our winner here and the runner-up on the back, and then inside has a message from the board, cabinet members here, and administrators. Says that this holiday season, our thoughts turn gratefully to those who have contributed to the success of our schools. In this spirit, we simply but sincerely thank you and best wishes for the holidays and a Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Crown Point Community School Corporation Board of School Trustees, administrators, and Dr. Terrell. For the runner-up and the winner this evening, they will get 25 cards, I believe it is, and the inside is blank. So then they and their families can use that for their Christmas cards for this year. So thank you guys. We appreciate all your work. Parents, if you would wave out there. If you're a parent, we appreciate you guys and the support and being here this evening with us. And wish you all Merry Christmas.
How about, Ms. Allen, did you have a chance
I would
to?
like to get some photos in the hallway.
Oh, good, good.
I got a couple here, but out there.
That's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, congratulations, guys.
You guys may go. Have a great evening. Thanks, guys.
Before you leave, let Ms. Allen get a couple pictures from you.
Tom, you good?
I'll let you know if I see it.
All right, the next item on our agenda is for the board to hold a preliminary hearing on the proposed projects. If you're interested in speaking at the hearing, please make sure you have signed the sheet in the back of the room, which should include your name and address. Mrs. Green has the sign-up sheet over there on a blue clipboard. After a presentation by the administration and its advisors, there will be an opportunity for the public to make comments about the project. At the hearing, we'll ask that each person limit their comments to 3 minutes and that the topic be limited to the proposed project under consideration. The notice of the preliminary determination hearing was published as legally required on November 26, 2020 in Northwest Indiana Times. And at this time, I'll ask Cheryl Zick, our school attorney, to explain the purpose of this hearing. Good evening, Ms. Zick.
Good evening, board, members of the community. As Mr. Warney said, tonight begins the legal process for the proposed projects under Indiana Code 61.1, 23.5. In order for an Indiana Public School Corporation to issue bonds or enter into a lease agreement for a project for which the total project cost is in excess of the non-controlled project threshold, it must hold 2 public hearings and adopt a resolution preliminarily determining to move forward. Resolutions also establish the maximum financial terms for the proposed projects. As Mr. Warney alluded to, on November 23rd, the board authorized publication of notice for the required public hearings for the proposed projects. Pursuant to that authorization and as is legally required, notice of the preliminary determination hearings, the first of which is being held tonight, was published on November 26th in the Northwest Indiana Times. Proof of publication has been provided to Mr. Warney for the record. This is the first of the process.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from Dr. Terrell about the process of determining and communicating the project to the community and the needs for the project. Dr. Terrell.
Thank you. Before I begin my portion, I want to make sure that everybody understands we have one of our board members, Tom Hoffman, who is unable to be with us tonight. So per the governor's executive order, he is participating via electronic device, so he can be a part of this hearing as well. This evening, we're going to go through a presentation here. I will be giving some of the information, and then also our Chief Financial Officer, Katie Dowling, will be giving some of the information as well for our board and for the members of our audience this evening. I want to begin by just giving everybody a little bit of a timeline of our facility study. This study began in 2017 here in Crown Point Schools, and really looking at a district-wide facility assessment, looking at school capacity, and then also the learning environment needs study to ensure where we are with our students and what needs to take place within our corporation. Through 2018 and 2020, there has been a continuation of the assessments of the study with priorities being placed in order. For instance, Winfield Elementary was identified early on as a priority, and we are actually in the process of coming into the last probably third, fourth of that remodel that has taken, an addition that has taken place there. Currently, we continue to review the considerations that are being made to us from the Skillman Corporation and Gibraltar, as well as they bring recommendations to us. Part of the facility study that we are involved in right now is looking at the annual review of the preventative maintenance priorities throughout our district. And this is taking place in each and every building that we operate. Also, it is continuing to look at student opportunities and achievement within all of our schools and at every grade level, making sure that we have in place what our students and our teachers need to provide the best educational experience for our kids. Talk just a little bit about the school board's strategic planning goals as we have worked with them, we being the administrators here within our district, both at the administration building and also within our individual school buildings. Number one is the recommendation should support the mission of Crown Point Community Schools to ensure that all students become lifelong learners through the highest quality educational programming. 2, maintain, renovate, or replace current buildings as appropriately supported by the verification of needs. And then keep the school corporation tax rate at or below the current level, which I think is a key that you're going to hear repeated this evening. So the facility priority needs that have been identified are in rank order. First one that we looked at was really the enrollment increases that we continue to see throughout our district. We continue to have student populations that are increasing at all grade levels, which are leading to crowded conditions. Number 2 is looking at Taft Middle School, a building that was built in 1954, has had 7 additions and 3 major renovations, and the need there for a new building and a new opportunity for our students at Taft Middle School. Also, Crown Point High School We have continued growth there. It has provided overcrowding, but also with that is looking at curriculum opportunities and technology, and again, trying to create the environment where our kids have the best possible experiences to prepare them for their futures. Also then across our district in our elementary buildings, we are looking at the overcrowding and capacity issues that are taking place throughout our community, which is a really great problem to have, and we appreciate the growth that we're seeing there. And then the last one is just looking at other student learning facilities and being where we need, again, keeping up with the new technology that's coming out and approaches to education. So next we're going to get into really looking at our student population, and I'm going to ask Mrs. Dowling if she will address this area for us, please.
Thank you, Dr. Terrell. Just to give the public an idea, since the 2009-2010 school year, we've seen approximately a 19% increase in our total student population. Some key indicators for us is our enrollment has outperformed our demographic study. You've heard us talk about that a lot. The birth and death rates, the subdivisions, available land, real estate turnover. We intend to have another one completed once the 2020 census data is received, but we did outperform the initial. New subdivisions, as we all know, I think continue to be developed. Most recently, the 207 acres over in St. John. Recently, Dr. Terrell and I received some information from the town of Winfield. There's another 525 unit subdivision planning to come in, and that's in addition to the ones that have already been platted out and are coming. So we're aware that growth continues in new construction. And then last, we're very fortunate in our corporation that we're made up of 3 outstanding communities that continue to develop their business corridors, which helps drive our residential development. Think about Broadway, 109th and I-65 corridor, the 231 and I-65, potentially what's coming there down the pipe, 109th and Randolph, 133rd and Morse, and Cedar Lake, the lakefront. So all of those things all factor in and drive our overall continued residential development. In elementary, in that same time period, we've had school buildings who've seen as high as 65% increased enrollment since that 09-10 school year. Some in 24, some 26, but it's big enrollment increases that we've seen in those facilities. 6 out of 7 of our elementary buildings have 1 to 2 classrooms or less available for use. So when you think about what we have to support, we just don't have a lot of room. And then since that same time period, we've added many student supports, including high-ability teachers, school counselors, interventionists, RTI, response to intervention professionals, literacy coaches, just to name a few. And we don't have the sufficient space to support those functions the way that they were intended. Taft Middle School, we thought everybody would love the very crowded photo there that shows what the hallway looks like. In that same time period from 09-10, the middle school at Taft has experienced 25% growth in its student population. The building is not structured to accommodate education in the 21st century. Of course, we say that because it was originally constructed in 1954, and as we all know, was 2 buildings that were blended into one down the line. So it's just not an efficient use of space. And again, they have the same challenges as elementary, where we've added significant supports for students that we just can't properly implement because we don't have the ancillary space. At Crown Point High School, same time period, we've experienced 15% growth in their student population. That student growth has caused us to exceed the available space in our ancillary spaces. So the cafeteria, the gym, the field house, small and large group instruction rooms, they're no longer sufficient to hold the student population that is there as the curriculum's developed. And then when we look at the program offerings over the last 10 years, it didn't contemplate career and technical ed offerings, the addition of career pathways, the dual credit programming, that saves our families every year countless dollars in tuition, and the expansion of our extracurricular offerings. So as those have added, the space just cannot accommodate all of those additions.
So as we've gone through this process, our design team has laid out several objectives as we look forward to reviewing the information from them, but then also as we come up with the conceptual ideas that we are going to base our projects off off of, and they include the function, value, efficiency, 21st century schools, and then the aesthetics that go with the projects as well. As we go through this next few slides, I want to make sure that I remind everybody these, again, are just concepts. We are not to the point where we have actual designs that are in place that say this is what it's going to be, but these are the concepts that we're looking at. So looking at a new Taft Middle School, we're looking for a 40-acre site. The new middle school will have a capacity for up to 1,400 students. Again, that's 6th through 8th grade. Looking at the technology-ready learning environment and having what we need there. Another important part of this that we think is crucial in this design is to have separate car and bus circulation patterns similar to what we currently have in many of our buildings, as well as sufficient parking for staff and visitors. We want to make sure that the building is laid out and designed so that we can address the needs of the middle learners and offer at the same time robust technology infrastructure that provides, again, that 21st century experience for our students. Also, I think one of the keys here as we look at this is really that energy efficient cost savings and looking at the amount of dollars that we will save from the new and improved systems. The other part, as Katie mentioned, was looking at our high school. We're looking at expanding our student capacity from 2,800 to 3,400. The creation of a new 2-story classroom addition that will fit nicely into the current plan footprint of our building. Looking at new science labs, robotics labs with STEM possibilities. Expanding our cafeteria, as was mentioned before, one of the keys as we have more students is making sure that the areas for cafeteria for ancillary duties are adequate. Looking for space where we can put new lockers and have commons for our kids as they come in the morning and throughout the day. Improve the circulation of our students as they move from class to class, and then also look at repurposing some of our construction labs into other CTE programs, and again, having adequate and sufficient car bus circulation improvements for arrival and dismissal of that number of students as well as staff members. Also, we are looking at major renovation and addition to 2 elementaries, the first of which this evening is MacArthur Elementary. Our goal with our elementary renovations is to get that student capacity up to 700 students within the building, and then look at classroom upgrades and additional classrooms that will go with it, providing, again, new opportunities for project labs that could include STEM, but upgrading the cafeteria, a new gymnasium with community access where they can come directly into the gym without going through the building, and then using that previous gym space to enlarge our cafeterias, our media center, and provide other additional opportunities for our kids. Also looking at making sure that our main office, where students come in, where parents come in, is appropriate and welcoming. Sensory rooms, having a clinic that is appropriate for the needs of our students today. Looking at restroom upgrades throughout our elementary building, especially here at MacArthur, and then technology grades throughout. The other elementary that we are looking at specifically with this project is Timothy Ball. Again, looking at expanding that capacity to 700. Many of the same things that applied at MacArthur apply here. One thing that we'd like to point out with Timothy Ball, it's just a little bit different. It's a tri-level type building, and one of the things we want to make sure we include in there is a ramp for accessibility to the second floor, so that students are able to get around in the building without having to use an elevator, although we will have an elevator there as we do now, just providing additional opportunities for our students. Now we're going to get into the financial part of this and the budget, and I'm going to ask Ms. Dowling if she will speak to this, please.
Thank you. When we get into the bond terms, I will also have Brock Bauscher from Baker Tilly will be assisting, as well as our bond consultant. Just to give a quick review, the projects in the preliminary estimate are a new Taft Middle School. To summarize Dr. Terrell's presentations, additions and renovations to Crown Point High School, additions and renovations to Douglas MacArthur Elementary, to Timothy Ball Elementary, addition or renovation for preschool early childhood development, addressing playgrounds at our elementary level district-wide, including soft surface, and as well as some other district-wide improvements, including potential to expand, renovate Wheeler Middle School, other elementary school additions and renovations based on the district-wide facility assessment, as well as technology upgrades that would make every classroom to be 21st century technology ready, in line with available curriculum. This slide you've seen previously. This just gives you an idea of the combined debt and project referenda tax rates for the Lake County school districts. Right there in the middle, probably should have made it red, but in the middle, yellow, is Crown Point. As you can see, we're right in the middle of the pack at 75 cents. That is our current debt service rate and the rate that we intend to maintain even with issuing debt for these projects. This gives you a little bit of a closer depiction on what's in yellow there is our existing debt. As you're aware, we've talked about for several years the debt cliff we refer to in 2024 when we repay or retire a large portion of our outstanding debt. So what you see there in blue is essentially the replacement debt that will fund this project while still keeping the debt rate at 75 cents. And then the gray area gives us room for future debt issuance if it's necessary. This depiction is designed, as Attorney Zick said, initially we are required by law to name maximum terms. And so 5% is what we've set the maximum at in terms of what we're saying the worst case scenario is for us. And you can see for us having interest rates coming in significantly lower, significantly impact our ability to repay this, essentially 5 years sooner than anticipated. And it keeps the school district tax rate at 75 cents, which again, that is what we desire to do, is to keep that tax rate flat. This, getting into Baker Tilly's items, this is the items we're legally required to provide to the board, to the community, because again, the law requires us to set a maximum. And so what you can see here is these are all based on that 5% maximum, not based on the estimate of 2.1%. And so as it states here, there's an estimated borrowing amount of $247 million, $247,015,000. Estimated proceeds available for construction is $214 million and a little more. Maximum repayment term is at 18 years and 8 months, which is based off of that 5-year or 5% maximum that we discussed. And then you can see the maximum annual lease rental payment, the max amount of the tax rate impacted. You'll note there it does say 7,925. That is based off of the maximum at the 5%. And so we're required to show that. Brock, if you want to add in it anywhere, you feel free to. And then below that, the max debt service tax rate increase. We anticipate managing the debt service tax rate to not increase based on the assessed value increases that we believe that we'll see, but by law, we're not allowed to consider that at this level for these purposes.
If you don't mind, I'll remove the mask so you hear me a little bit better. Brock Bauscher with Baker Tilly. It's nice to be out of the house. And, as Ms. Dowling mentioned, Dr. L, we've been working with their team for several months here, and we've established the max parameter at 5%. You heard Ms. Dowling talk about. However, for those of you who have a mortgage at home and you may have refinanced lately, the interest rates are much lower. So right now is a nice time from a market perspective to consider a project like this, just because we can minimize the borrowing cost related to this project as much as possible. So even though on paper we're showing a maximum tax rate of 79 cents, we think with a combination of interest rates being as low as they are, and you heard about the continued growth around the community, the anticipated net assessed value growth, we are confident that we can manage that tax rate at no greater than 75 cents going forward.
You want to add?
So as part of the max parameters, we're establishing that the maximum borrowing amount that you heard Ms. Dowling talk about being no greater than $247,015,000. Again, we're setting the maximum amount. and how that project can be broken up into 3 buckets of dollars. And we're targeting, you see on the far left-hand side, or my left-hand side, $214.5 million, which would be project proceeds related specifically to getting the projects completed. Then a term you'll hear me mention a couple of times, and Ms. Dowling a couple of times from this point going forward, is capitalized interest. Those are dollars set aside as part of the bond issue to repay bondholders to help manage our tax rate. You'll see that in a little more detail in the coming slides, but as part of the strategic plan on this bond issue to set aside those dollars to repay bondholders so we don't have to increase the tax levy or tax rate in the debt service fund. So it's done strategically throughout the state of Indiana by a lot of school corporations to help manage the tax rate, which again, you'll see in a little more detail here in the coming slide. Then the final bucket that we'd be setting up is for cost of issuance, to pay bankers' fees, to pay attorney fees, municipal advisor fees, trustee fees, appraisal fees, title fees, just about any professional fee that you can think related to the bond issue. And we've set that at being no greater than 0.45% of the total bond issue. So again, to set a maximum parameter as part of the project. You heard Ms. Dowling already mention, this is the outstanding debt as of today. So a couple of questions that may come up is, well, why now? Well, it's a nice point of time where you have existing debt maturing, where we can fit this repayment schedule and wrap it around existing debt to minimize that impact to taxpayers that we've heard is part of the strategic goal to have no greater than a 75-cent tax rate. So again, from a timing perspective, it works out well, but more importantly, those interest rates to keep that borrowing cost down for the community. Then this last slide here, the gray represents the outstanding debt here on the prior slide. The blue represents the full blue represents the maximum repayment structure of 18 years and 8 months. And I think this board knows quite well that the maximum repayment term in the state of Indiana is 20 years. So whether we set the maximum parameter at 18 years and 8 months, but we anticipate 13 years and 8 months, we're well within those confines of what's required by the state of Indiana. You heard me mention capitalized interest on the prior slide and diagonal bars in 2021 and 2022. That's where we're setting aside those dollars to avoid that significant increase to taxpayers, to, again, to help smooth out what we're levying in tax, what our levy and tax rate is for those couple of years, so taxpayers don't feel a significant increase then a decrease right back. So part of the overall strategic plan for the bond issue to help level off the tax rate going forward. And for those who like to see the detail of what we're estimating, it's the 18-year and 8-month repayment schedule with a 5% coupon rate. Again, it's our goal to continue working with your team, both tonight and ongoing, to minimize those costs to taxpayers, as our role is completely advisory only. So I'm not here to try to buy or sell the bonds. It's purely just an advisory role to help usher in the next steps in the project. So with that, welcome questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Brock.
And Brock, we may ask you to come back up as we receive questions during our comment time as well. And you can see why we asked him to be here this evening. So another part of this hearing this evening is we just want to establish a tentative timeline. Right now, our thoughts are that we will begin the projects this spring of 2021. With all projects being completed by December of 2024. And with that, that concludes the comments that we have in our presentation for this evening.
Thank you. We'll now open the public hearing. Remember, if you'd like to speak, sign in on the sheet which is located with Mrs. Green. If anybody has not had that opportunity, we'll still add an opportunity to do so if you missed it. Thank you. You could also call, for those of you that open up the agenda at home, if anybody's listening, watching, you should have these numbers and extension with you, but I'll say it once and repeat it again. You could call 219-663-3371, and then wait for the extension prompt and dial 10251. So one more time, you could call 219-663-3371. then wait for the extension prompt and dial 10251. If the call's not answered, please just try a time or two more. We should get you through. As I mentioned earlier, we ask that you state your name and address, limit your comments to the proposed project and financing, keep any comments to 3 minutes, and avoid being repetitive if possible. We're going to ask Scott Angel if you would please be the timer under 3 minutes. So if if the alarm goes off on you, we'll give you a closing comment and then move forward just to stick with our policy. Let's see the sheet names. We have Mr. Mark Bates. Like to come forward.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Can I take this down?
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
And I will promise not to go over 3 minutes. So, my name is Mark Bates, and I reside at 1235 East Greenwood Avenue in Crown Point. And as a taxpayer with both residential and commercial holdings here in Crown Point, I would like to tell the board that I am in favor of this project. I applaud the administration and the school board in proposing these much-needed building projects without incurring additional tax to the taxpayers in our community. We are fortunate to have a vibrant community, and our school corporation continues to attract families into our growing school district. Our current buildings are in need of improvement, expansion, and even new construction of school buildings to keep pace with the continued forecasted growth. Not addressing the needs will continue to burden the existing buildings with overcrowded classrooms and unacceptable student-teacher ratios. I would strongly encourage the Crown Point School Board trustees to adopt measures to move forward with this proposed project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bates. Appreciate your comments. We don't have anybody else that had signed up on the original sheet, but is there anybody that missed the opportunity or would like to step forward? We just need you to announce name and address, and we can hear your comments. We don't have any here, and this is new for us for the board too to be taking phone call-ins. So we have not had any, but we'll give it a 15 seconds to see. If anyone calls in, we'll pause and take the phone call. So if by chance you feel like you tried and missed us, try again. If the phone rings, we'll be happy to take the call. Correct?
While that's going on, I'll feel obligated to just say one quick statement. This is right for kids and the education process that those kids endure, including our staff and members. And to be able to do that with no additional tax increase is the right thing to do at this time. So I just want to make sure that people understand why we're doing this, and that pretty much sums up the entire project.
Thank you, Mr. Angel. Anybody else from the board have any quick comments or closing comments on the presentation this evening? Well, we don't have, nobody's calling in. Mr. Angel, thank you. And thank you to everyone who participated in the hearing. We appreciate your time and interest in the project and the future of our community. I agree strongly with the comments of Mr. Angel personally. Please note that this is just the first step in the legal process. No board action is legally required at this hearing. Rather, this hearing is solely to hear public comment. And thank you, Mr. Bates, for your comment. The board will continue to work with the administration and its professionals to look for efficiencies to conserve the tax dollars while meeting our educational needs. And the board will be holding a second public hearing in this room next week, December 14th at 6 p.m. Anything else? We look for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. Second?
Motion by Mr. Smith and second by Mr. Angel. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all for coming.
Hey, Tom, you there?